Lyra's expression shuddered. Some things were meant to stay within our community. No more secrets, Elias insisted. Not if you want my help. After a tense silence, Lyra activated a hidden partition in Arya's files. Arya didn't die in an accident. She was killed because of what she discovered. The revelation hit Elias like physical pain. By whom? Members of our own council, Lyra admitted, unable to meet his eyes. They believed her research would destroy our way of life. Integration with humans would mean the end of our distinct heritage. And you kept this from me? His voice was dangerously quiet. From Nova? To protect her. To protect you both. Lyra's composure cracked. I've been working to complete Arya's research in secret, to honor her vision. Darian discovered this. That's what he's really after. The betrayal cut deep. Reopening wounds Elias thought had finally begun to heal. You used me to protect your research, just like Arya used me and left. That's not true. Arya loved you. Lyra stopped herself, tears forming in her unusual eyes. Before they could resolve anything, Elias's security system alerted them to an intruder. Security footage showed Darian Cole entering the building's private elevator. He's coming for the research, Lyra whispered. Elias made a split-second decision, encrypting the files and transferring them to his secure server. If he wants this, he goes through me. As Darian breached the penthouse, the confrontation exploded into violence. Darian possessed enhanced strength and reflexes, easily overpowering Elias's security. When he threatened Lyra, Elias intervened, taking a vicious blow that left him bleeding. You humans are so fragile, Darian sneered, holding Elias by the throat. Tell me where Arya's complete research is or watch her die next. Despite his anger at Lyra's deception, Elias couldn't bear the thought of losing her. With his remaining strength, he activated the penthouse's emergency protocols, plunging the room into darkness. In the chaos, Lyra demonstrated abilities she'd kept hidden, moving with impossible speed to incapacitate Darian. As sirens wailed in the distance, Elias and Lyra faced each other across Darian's unconscious form, their relationship fractured by revealed lies yet bound by shared danger. I never meant to fall in love with you, Lyra confessed, her voice breaking. But I have, and now I've put everything at risk. Dawn broke over San Francisco Bay, painting the sky in colors that reminded Elias of Lyra's skin. In his private hospital room, doctors marveled at his accelerated healing, unaware of the stellar-originated compound Lyra had applied to his wounds before authorities arrived. Darian was in custody under heavy sedation, identified publicly as an industrial saboteur, but Elias knew the fragile peace was temporary. Questions mounted about the breach, about Lyra, about his unexplained absence. His board called an emergency meeting, clearly planning to challenge his leadership. Come back to Haven with me, Lyra suggested, watching him dress despite medical advice to rest. Nova needs you. Our people need you. And what about what I've built here? He asked, gesturing to the skyline where Thornfield Tower dominated. My life's work. Is it truly fulfilling without connection? Without family? She approached cautiously, the distance between them still raw from revelations of deception. Arya believed our worlds could coexist. That's what her research was ultimately about. Not just changing biology, but changing perceptions. Before he could respond, his phone chimed with an urgent message from Haven. Nova had accessed the observatory's advanced communications. Harayan was calling. Dad. Her voice trembled with an emotion Elias had never heard. From his confident daughter, the council knows everything. About Darian, about Mom's research, about you and Lyra. They're saying we have to leave Earth. Leave? Lyra gasped. They can't make that decision unilaterally. They're afraid exposure is inevitable now, Nova explained. They've activated the contingency protocol. The ship hidden beneath Haven. We have 48 hours. The revelation that Haven concealed an actual spacecraft, that leaving the planet was even possible, left Elias reeling. Yet somehow it wasn't the most shocking development of recent days. I'm not leaving, Nova declared with stubborn determination that mirrored his own. Mom believed we belong here with humans. With people like you, Dad. As the call ended, Elias faced the most impossible decision of his life. The board meeting awaited, his company, his legacy hanging in the balance. Yet his newfound family, the daughter he'd only just discovered, faced exile from the only home they'd known. "I need to see something first," he told Lyra, leading her to his private laboratory 20 floors below his penthouse. There, secured behind biometric locks, lay the true heart of Thornfield Technologies. Innovations years ahead of what the public knew. "Your orbital system," Lyra whispered, understanding dawning as she studied the schematics. "It could detect our people." "Or," Elias said quietly, "it could be modified to shield them instead. To create blind spots precisely where communities like Haven exist." For hours they worked together, Elias's human ingenuity complementing Lyra's stellar knowledge, creating a solution neither could have devised alone. When they finished, he transferred the modified designs to his secure server. "This doesn't solve everything," Lyra cautioned. "The Council needs to see another way as possible," Elias finished. "Arya knew it. Now we need to prove it." "You're making a mistake," Marcus warned afterward. Whoever has captured your attention, it won't last." Elias smiled, thinking of Nova's determined face, of Lyra's courage, of the community hidden among the stars. "For the first time in 15 years, I'm not making a mistake. I'm correcting one." They reached Haven as sunset painted the valley in deepening purples. The community was in upheaval, preparations for departure visible everywhere. The council convened immediately, their expressions severe as Elias and Lyra presented their alternative. "Impossible," the eldest council member declared. "Humans cannot be trusted with our existence." "Yet you've lived among them for generations," Elias countered. "My daughter is proof our worlds can unite." Nova stepped forward, standing proudly between Elias and Lyra. "Mom didn't die for us to run away. She died trying to build bridges." Through the night, debate raged. Elias opened his secure server, revealing the modified orbital system that would protect Haven rather than expose it. Lyra presented Arya's complete research, showing how it offered their people choice rather than extinction. By morning, the council remained divided, but enough members supported the alternative to halt the evacuation temporarily. A new path was possible, uncertain but filled with hope rather than fear. In the observatory where they had first met, Elias found Lyra watching the sunrise, exhaustion and relief mingling on her beautiful face. "I still haven't forgiven you completely," he said softly. Joining her by the window, "I know," she replied. "Trust comes harder than love." He took her hand, their fingers intertwining. "But I'm willing to try. For Nova, for us, for what Arya believed was possible." 6 months later, Thornfield Technologies announced a new environmental initiative, establishing conservation zones in remote areas, including the valley surrounding Haven. The modified orbital system launched successfully, invisible shields protecting the communities of stellar-originated beings while opening new possibilities for human space exploration. In a beautiful home nestled between Arya's dwelling and the observatory, Elias created a new center for his work. Nova divided her time between Haven's Academy and occasional, carefully managed visits to San Francisco, where her intelligence and unique perspective brought fresh innovation to the company that would one day be hers. And in quiet moments, when work was done and Nova was occupied with her research, Elias and Lyra found their way back to each other. Their relationship, born of secrets and forged in crisis, slowly transformed into something neither had thought possible. A bridge between worlds, just as Arya had envisioned. "Do you ever regret it?" Lyra asked him one evening as they watched the stars emerge above Haven. "Leaving your old life behind?" Elias considered the empire he'd built, the wealth and power he'd once thought essential. Then he looked at the woman beside him, with her subtle purple skin and extraordinary heart, and thought of the daughter who carried the best of two worlds within her. "I spent 15 years building a legacy of things," he said, drawing Lyra close. "Now I'm building a legacy of connection. That's the secret Arya knew all along." Above them, stars winked like distant promises, no longer unreachable. The board meeting was brief and decisive. Elias Thornfield, the man who had built a technology empire from nothing, announced he was stepping down as CEO to pursue revolutionary research opportunities. He appointed Marcus as his successor, retaining majority ownership, but relinquishing daily control of the company he'd sacrificed everything to build. The morning sun slanted through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Thornfield Tower. casting long shadows across Elias Thornfield's immaculate office. At 42, Elias had everything most people spent lifetimes dreaming of: a tech empire worth billions, properties across 6 continents, and the kind of influence that made presidents return his calls without delay. Yet as he stood gazing over the San Francisco skyline, a familiar emptiness gnawed at him. "Mr. Thornfield?" The soft voice of his assistant, Margot, interrupted his thoughts. "I've brought the documents for the Singapore merger." Elias turned, offering a practiced smile. "Thank you, Margot. How long have you been with me now?" 7 years next month, sir," she replied, placing the folders on his glass desk. 7 years, he echoed. "Longer than any of my relationships." Margot's expression softened. She was perhaps the only person who knew anything about the real Elias, beneath the tailored suits and headlines. "The board meeting starts in 20 minutes. Shall I have the car brought around?" He nodded, already returning to the businessman the world expected. The meeting went as meetings always did, Elias commanding the room with quiet authority, his suggestions accepted without question. He'd built Thornfield Technologies from nothing, transforming a garage startup into a corporation that shaped how the world communicated. Success was his constant companion, yet fulfillment remained a stranger. That evening, as rain pattered against the windows of his penthouse, Elias's phone rang. The hospital's number flashed on the screen and a chill ran down his spine. "Mr. Thornfield, this is Memorial Hospital. I'm afraid Ms. Margot Chen was brought in after a car accident. She didn't make it. She listed you as her emergency contact." The world tilted beneath him. Margot, efficient, loyal Margot, gone in an instant. He barely remembered the drive to the hospital, moving through formalities in a daze. As her emergency contact, they gave him her personal effects in a clear plastic bag: a simple gold necklace, her phone, and a small silver key he'd never seen before. 2 days later, after the initial shock had dulled to a persistent ache, Elias found himself in Margot's modest apartment. Her lawyer had explained she'd left instructions for him to collect certain files from her home. The silver key opened a lockbox hidden in her closet. Inside, he found a collection of documents that made no sense. Astronomical calculations, coordinates, and photographs. Photographs of a woman he hadn't allowed himself to think about in 15 years. Aria. His first love. The woman who had disappeared without a trace shortly after their relationship had ended. There was a handwritten note in Margot's neat script. "Mr. Thornfield, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I've protected your secret all these years, but you deserve to know the truth. Aria didn't abandon you. Follow these coordinates. What you find will change everything. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you sooner." Elias sank to the floor, the papers trembling in his hands. Aria's face looked back at him from the photographs, still youthful, unchanged despite the years that had passed. But that was impossible, and in several images she stood near what appeared to be scientific equipment, surrounded by people he didn't recognize. In one photo, a timestamp from just 2 years ago, showed her beside a young woman who couldn't be more than 16. A young woman with Aria's smile in his eyes, his heart hammered against his ribs. The coordinates in the file pointed to a location in the remote mountains of Northern California. Margot had included detailed directions and a contact name: Dr. Lyra Stellaris. Elias poured himself a whiskey with shaking hands. For 15 years he'd believed Aria had simply decided he wasn't worth staying for. He'd built an empire partly to prove her wrong, to fill the void she'd left. And now, his phone chimed with messages from his executive team, reminding him of tomorrow's presentations to investors. The world expected Elias Thornfield, tech visionary, to show up and perform. But the man staring back at him from Margot's mirror was someone else entirely. Someone haunted, vulnerable, faced with a past that refused to stay buried. By morning, he'd made his decision. He called his COO, canceling his appointments for the next week, citing a personal emergency. Then he packed a bag, ignoring the protests of his security team as he slipped out through a private exit. The coordinates led to an observatory facility nestled high in the mountains, nearly 5 hours from San Francisco. As Elias navigated the winding road in his rarely used personal car, questions tumbled through his mind. Had Margot been investigating Aria all these years? Why keep it secret? And most importantly, whose was the young face with his eyes? The observatory appeared abandoned at first glance, its massive dome gleaming silver against the darkening sky. But as Elias approached the main entrance, a tall woman with striking features emerged as if she'd been waiting for him. Her skin had an unusual quality to it, smooth with the faintest purple undertone that he initially attributed to the setting sun. "Mr. Thornfield," she said, her accent impossible to place. "I'm Lyra. We've been expecting you for a very long time." The observatory's interior was surprisingly modern, with sleek technology that even impressed Elias. Lyra led him through a maze of corridors, her movements graceful and deliberate. Under the fluorescent lights, the subtle purple undertone of her skin was unmistakable, no longer something he could attribute to the sunset. "You're wondering about my appearance," Lyra said without turning around. "That's natural. It's usually the first thing humans notice." "Humans," Elias repeated, his tech mogul composure momentarily slipping. Lyra stopped at a secure door, her unusual amber eyes studying him. "Margot was supposed to prepare you gradually. Her death complicated things." She placed her palm on a scanner, revealing a laboratory beyond. Some truths are better experienced than explained. Inside, holographic star charts danced across the walls, displaying celestial bodies Elias didn't recognize. "What is this place? And what does it have to do with Arya?" "Arya came to us 18 years ago," Lyra said, activating a display that showed a familiar face, the woman who had once held his heart, looking barely older than when she'd left. "She was pregnant with your child." The floor seemed to shift beneath Elias. "That's impossible. She never told me. She didn't know when she left. And by the time she discovered it," Lyra's expression softened, "by then she'd learned something about herself that made returning to you complicated." A door opened at the far end of the lab, and a teenage girl entered. She had Arya's delicate features but Elias's stormy gray eyes and determined jawline. She moved with youthful confidence, pausing when she spotted him. "Nova," Lyra said gently. "This is your father." The girl, Nova, approached cautiously. "You look just like your pictures." Her voice had the same musical quality as her mother's, though older, obviously. Elias couldn't speak, overwhelmed by the evidence of his own blood standing before him. A daughter. He had a daughter. "Where is Arya now?" he finally managed. Nova and Lyra exchanged glances. "Mom died 3 years ago," Nova said quietly. "An accident during research. That's when Margot found us. She'd been looking for years, apparently." "Arya wasn't entirely human, Mr. Thornfield," Lyra explained, motioning for them to sit. "Neither am I. Our ancestors came to Earth generations ago, integrating while maintaining certain biological differences. We live among humans, yet apart." Elias laughed harshly. "You expect me to believe you're aliens?" "We prefer stellar-originated beings," Nova interjected with teenage indignation. "And it's not like we have tentacles or anything weird. Just slightly different physiology and a few abilities humans don't possess." "Like what?" Elias challenged. In response, Lyra touched a small plant on the table. It responded to her touch, growing visibly, its stems curling around her fingers with evident affinity. "We have a unique connection to organic matter," she explained, "and other traits. Our community has remained hidden to protect ourselves, though some, like Arya, choose to live among humans. She fell in love with you genuinely, but when she discovered her pregnancy, she had to return to us." "Why?" Elias demanded. "Why couldn't she tell me?" "Because hybrid children need specialized care during development," Lyra said. "And because Arya feared how you might react to learning what she really was. What your child would be." Nova studied her hands. "Mom always said she wanted to tell you, but then you became famous, and it seemed impossible." The revelation crashed over Elias in waves. A daughter, an otherworldly heritage, and the knowledge that Arya hadn't abandoned him out of callousness but fear. His mind raced with questions, but one dominated. "Why reveal this now? After all this time?" Lyra's expression grew serious. "Because Nova is showing exceptional abilities, even for one of our kind. And because your company's new orbital surveillance system threatens to expose our community. Margot discovered this and reached out. We need your help," Nova added simply. "And I wanted to meet you." As darkness fell, Elias stood on the observatory's viewing platform, struggling to process everything. The stars above seemed different now, knowing some might be the original home of Arya's people. Lyra joined him, her presence oddly comforting. She loved you, Lyra said softly. Until the end. Will you show me where you live? Where she raised our daughter? Lyra nodded. Tomorrow. It's not far from here. As they stood in silence, Elias felt something shift within him. The emptiness that had haunted him for years giving way to something new. Something like possibility. Dawn broke over a hidden valley nestled between twin peaks, revealing a community unlike anything Elias had imagined. A collection of elegant structures seamlessly integrated with the natural landscape, gardens that seemed too vibrant to be of Earth, and people going about their daily lives, people who, upon closer inspection, all shared the subtle markers Lyra possessed. We call it Haven, Lyra explained as they descended in her vehicle, a silent, hovering transport that ran on technology Elias's engineers would kill to examine. 63 of us live here permanently, with another 100 or so scattered throughout human society. Nova bounced excitedly in her seat. Dad, wait until you see the gardens. I've been working on a new hybrid rose species that responds to music. The casual use of Dad sent an unexpected warmth through Elias. For someone who commanded boardrooms without blinking, he felt strangely nervous around this teenager who shared his DNA. Haven welcomed them with curious stares. Elias noted the residents had varying degrees of the distinctive coloring. Some, like Nova, showing just hints around their hairlines and nail beds, others with more pronounced purple-tinged skin like Lyra's. Our council wishes to meet you, Lyra said, leading him to a circular building at the community's center. They're concerned about your intentions. Inside, 7 elders waited, their features more distinctly alien than the others. Eyes larger, skin more vividly colored. They questioned him thoroughly about his company, his satellite system, and what he intended to do with his newfound knowledge. I only learned about all this yesterday, Elias pointed out. I'm still processing the fact that I have a daughter. A daughter who is one of us, the eldest said firmly, and whose safety depends on our continued secrecy. Nova showed him Arya's home afterward, a beautiful dwelling filled with books, scientific equipment, and photographs. Many included Nova at various ages, chronicling milestones Elias had missed. In Arya's study, he found journals documenting her research on human stellar genetic compatibility, alongside more personal entries. She was trying to find a way for us to live more openly, Nova explained, to bridge our worlds. Over the following days, Elias immersed himself in Haven, watching Nova demonstrate her remarkable abilities with plants and learning about the community's history. Each evening, Lyra joined him, answering his endless questions with patience. You've adapted remarkably well, she observed on the 4th night as they walked through gardens that glowed softly in the darkness. Most humans would be overwhelmed. I built a company on adapting to the impossible, he replied. Though I admit alien descendants is beyond even my imagination. We're not so different, Lyra said. We feel the same emotions, want the same things. Her hand brushed his as they walked, sending an unexpected current between them. Elias found himself increasingly drawn to her intelligence and quiet strength. She carried herself with a dignity that reminded him of Arya, yet was entirely her own person. Were you and Arya close? He asked. She was my cousin, Lyra answered. When she died, I promised to look after Nova. Your daughter has extraordinary potential, even among our people. As the days passed, Elias watched Nova flourish under Lyra's guidance, demonstrating abilities that defied explanation, accelerating plant growth, an intuitive understanding of complex physics, and what appeared to be a form of empathic communication. She needs both worlds, Lyra told him one evening. Your human ingenuity and our stellar heritage. Arya understood that. Elias struggled with the implications of bringing Nova into his life. His world of corporate sharks and media scrutiny seemed dangerous for a girl with secrets so profound. Meanwhile, his absence from Thornfield Technologies hadn't gone unnoticed. His COO, Marcus Reed, called daily with increasing urgency. The board is asking questions, Elias, Marcus pressed. And Quantum Dynamics is making moves on our satellite contract. We need you back. Torn between worlds, Elias found himself confiding in Lyra during their evening walks. The attraction between them grew, subtle but undeniable. You could stay, she suggested one night, her fingers tentatively entwining with his. Not forever, but longer. Under a canopy of stars, their first kiss was tentative, then passionate, a connection that seemed to transcend their different origins. Elias felt something awaken within him that had been dormant since Arya, but as they returned to the community, a message from Marcus shattered the moment. Someone had broken into his private servers, accessing files on the orbital system. Security footage showed a familiar face. "That's Darian Cole," Lyra said, looking pale. "He's one of us, but he left Haven years ago. He believes we should rule humans, not hide from them. And now he has access to technology that could expose your community," Elias realized. Or worse, the idol was broken. That night, as Nova slept, Elias and Lyra planned their next move, their newfound intimacy now shadowed by threat. "I need to return to San Francisco," he said reluctantly, "to contain this." "Then I'm coming with you," Lyra replied. "Nova will be safe here, but Darian knows about you now. And there are things about Arya's research you still don't know, things that could change everything." San Francisco felt like another planet after the serenity of Haven. Elias's penthouse, once his sanctuary, now seemed cold and sterile as he and Lyra arrived. She moved through the space cautiously, her subtle alienness more noticeable against the urban backdrop. "You've surrounded yourself with beautiful things," she observed, studying his art collection, "but it doesn't feel like a home." Before he could respond, Marcus called, "Whatever vacation you've been on needs to end now. The Pentagon is questioning our security protocols after the breach, and Darian Cole has approached 3 board members with what he claims is revolutionary satellite technology." "I'll handle it," Elias promised, ending the call to find Lyra watching him with concern. "You can't tell them about us," she said quietly. "I know." He approached, taking her hands. "But I need to understand exactly what Darian might know. What was Arya researching that's so important?" Lyra hesitated. "She was developing a way to alter our biology, to let us choose whether to express our stellar traits or appear fully human, the ability to truly integrate or remain distinct by choice. That's what Darian wants, the research." "The research is incomplete," Lyra explained. "But yes, with it he could potentially expose our existence on his terms or create more of us." The implications hung heavy between them. Elias pulled her close, their bodies fitting together perfectly despite their different origins. That night, passion overtook caution. Their lovemaking was intense, almost ethereal. Lyra's touch bringing sensations he'd never experienced, as if she could reach beyond his physical form to something deeper. Afterward, breathless and entangled, Elias whispered, "I never believed I could feel this way again after Arya." Lyra traced patterns on his chest. "Our people form deep connections. It's both our blessing and our curse." Morning brought reality crashing back. The Thornfield Technologies headquarters buzzed with tension as Elias returned, Lyra accompanying him as a research consultant. He immersed himself in damage control, reviewing the compromised files while keeping Lyra's true nature hidden from his curious staff. Marcus cornered him in his office. "Where have you been? And who is she, really?" "Someone I trust," Elias replied firmly. "Which is more than I can say for some of my board members right now." Days blurred into nights of strategy and countermoves against Darian's machinations. Elias worked tirelessly to protect both his company and Haven's secrets, while his relationship with Lyra deepened. They stole moments of intimacy between crises, her presence becoming his anchor. On the 5th day, they received an encrypted message from Nova. Unusual activity had been detected near Haven. Surveillance drones, using technology suspiciously similar to Thornfield's prototypes. "He's looking for something specific," Lyra realized. Something of Arya's. That night, as they pored over Arya's research notes in his home lab, Elias found anomalies in her data, patterns that suggested she'd omitted critical information. "These sequences don't match what you've told me," he said, showing Lyra the discrepancies. "What aren't you telling me?"